Because
No, I want you to define what toxic masculinity constitutes. Since we're going to define things so carefully, let's do it.
yeah, can someone help me here in the audience?
Here's something that almost never happens in these kinds of debates. Someone walks up to one of the most well-read psychologists alive, asks him a loaded question, and then gets completely blindsided when he actually takes it seriously. That's exactly what you're about to watch. A self-described third-generation left-wing feminist steps up to the mic and asks Jordan Peterson what the antidote to toxic masculinity is. And Peterson doesn't dodge it. He doesn't get defensive. He gives a full, thoughtful answer. But then she pushes back.
he always
and
does.
that's where everything starts unraveling. Because Peterson does something most people in these conversations never do. He stops and asks a simple question right back at her. Define it. Just define the term you're using. And watch what happens next.
Hi, Jordan. My question is, what is the antidote towards toxic masculinity?
Well, the antidote is responsible masculinity. And what does responsible mean? It means, well,
Let you about to speak.
Oh, no. Because she went like this, like, okay. And it's like, yeah, but do you not understand what you just asked? Like, and that was an actual good answer back. Is like, well, and that was such a quick result, or not result, a quick,
Response.
well, not even response, a quick solution. Like, he was so fast with the solution, and he's like, but you don't even understand that, like what responsible masculinity does. But what's so crazy is that this word is just overused, like, and don't even know what it means. And this is why is she even there? Do you know who you're dealing with? Like, do you know who Jordan Peterson is? Like, I would be terrified to go up to him and speak to him, like, and because I don't know enough. That man is a genius. Like, what?
if you're responsible, then you're trying to do what's honest first. So you're careful with your speech and your actions. You're careful with your speech in that you don't say things that you know to be false, and you're careful in your actions so that you don't have to lie about what you do. That's a good start. And then the next thing would be that you're capable of taking responsibility for yourself, at least, so that once you're an adult, no one else has to bend over backwards to ensure that you don't unduly suffer in the world. And so that's responsibility for yourself. And then if you get halfway good at that, well, then, you might think about taking on the responsibility of a family and contributing to your community and doing all those things in a harmonious manner. And that's obviously the antidote to toxic masculinity, which is not a phrase I would generally use. I just think about it as, what would you call it? I think sinful behavior is a much more accurate representation, personally. But it's honesty and responsibility. And I do think about it as a function of harmony. I got that a lot from reading Jean Piaget, whose work was a psychological extension of Kant's categorical imperative. Because Kant believed that you should act in a manner such that if the way you acted became a universal, that would be beneficial. But Piaget formalized that very nicely, showing that one of the bases for the emergence of a system of genuine ethics was an iterable form of reciprocity. So that, so for example, I can give you a quick example of that.
What she isn't realizing within herself is that, no, forget the other crazy words just to trigger somebody. What you don't like is masculinity within itself. You don't like men. You don't like what that means that they are. You don't like what that means, what they represent. Because why? Oh, they're above you. They're leaders. They build things. They create things that make the world function in such a level that where you don't even have to think about it when you walk outside of your door. But I think that's what she's missing, is that, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about. Like, why are you here?
Question: do you think that comes from women getting pumped and dumped by masculine men, and then they have a feeling towards that masculine man, or all masculine men? They don't like those traits, masculine traits, because they fall for them all the time. They can't help but.
I think that's what they're hating is they're hating, like he said, they're hating the sinful part of the man but not realizing all the other aspects of what a man is and the entity of it, but because of being pumped and dumped. Like that, all of this is stemming from the dudes that did that to you. Like you aren't dealing with that pain of it, and then you're listening to other women and words that they're using, things that they're saying, and then you think you're intelligent and think you're smart enough to come up here and talk to a doctor, a professor, about this stuff that's saying words I don't even know, I've never heard of before. Sometimes if he talks too fast, I'm like, oh my God, he's speaking another language. I have no clue what he's saying. But the gist of it, if you have a little bit of wisdom, is that, dude, what you're not getting the point of is that men aren't bad. It's just sinfulness within some men. And it's not even all of them. But you're so busy wrapping them all up into one that you can't even heal that within yourself. And you're coming up here talking to a doctor like you know what you're talking about. That's crazy. You look crazy. You look stupid. You look dumb. Like you look really, and she's like, shoot, you're saying all these words and I don't know what you're saying. And you sound really smart and I don't know how to respond to this, but I'm curious what she's going to say next to this man.
Toxic femininity, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. That is what is so ironic about it, is that no, what is toxic is what is toxic. And it's so crazy that it's only toxic because we make it that way. No, you're being toxic by calling it toxic. Like that you don't understand how much damage that you're doing here.
Daughter, who's now 15 months old, has discovered a new game, and it's a Piagetian game, a developmental game, and she
what that is.
Discovered this by watching, but also on her own, and partly because it's a very deep part of human nature. So she has this little wooden spoon, and her game is you sit with her at the table, and her game is she gives you the spoon, and then you take it, and then you give it back. And then she's all happy about that, and then she gives the spoon to the person who's sitting beside her. And then they give it back to her, and she's very happy about that. And so it's an amazing game because she's learned to give up something, to let go of something that she wants, and to trust someone else to return it to her. And that's what she's playing with. And then you can play with that game. It's quite fun. So, and you have to pay careful attention to her and watch how she's manifesting her emotions. And so maybe what you do is you take the spoon and you hide it under your hand. That sort of disconcerts her a bit. Then you show it to her and pick it up and give it to her, and she's happy about that because what she sees is that the principle of reciprocity can maintain itself across a set of transformations, and that's really exciting to her. Or you can give her the spoon and she can give it back to you, and then she can reach for it and you can pull it away 1/4 of an inch, and that sort of disconcerts her, and then she'll You want to repeat that?
I'm sorry. I said that didn't cover really a toxic masculinity, right? Because
yes, it's dealing with dealing with the principle of reciprocity.
You just said that you have to be honest and responsible as a man, right?
Well, put it this way: when I'm giving the spoon back to my granddaughter, I'm not engaging in toxic masculinity, and that was the point that I was trying to make. Is that, and this deep reciprocity and trust is part of the social contract. And it is precisely the antidote to what precisely, since we're going to pursue this, what precisely is toxic masculinity, as opposed to, say, toxic femininity or toxic humanity? What exactly are you asking me about?
This is the moment the whole exchange pivots.
I'm so excited. Because I guess I can think back to how I would have responded, I guess, and it's that, well, the bad men, the ones that do this and that, and what Jordan is trying to get her to understand is that, right, but that isn't connected to the masculinity within itself. That's connected to the sin within the person.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if female or male. Yeah. But think about that. That's so how we think that we're so much better than y'all. That's how disconnected we are from our own mess, from our own things that we struggle with, that we are, what makes us sinful.
But I don't think women struggle with things.
Yeah, excuse me, they don't struggle with that.
I think they should struggle with, but they don't believe it's something to their demons.
I'm better.
To fight. Yeah,
I'm such a good person. How often do you hear women say that? But men are like, well, I'm kind of a douche sometimes. Like, Men are so much more honest about themselves, but that's what is so beautiful about a man, and it teaching you to be that way. Like, you know what? Like, it's okay to own that, because how can you work on that if you don't know that that's your issue? That's just logic. That's wisdom. Like, just, that's the only way you can work on something is if you know that you have a problem.
I really want to know what you like, how you would describe toxic masculinity. Because
No, I want you to define what toxic masculinity constitutes. Since we're going to define things so carefully, let's do it.
well, I think
Okay, guys, sorry, but we really have to move on. So there will be more questions later on. There will be a lot of opportunities.
No, but
to ask
How
maybe let's,
convenient.
if you
Let me guess, they're on her side?
okay, so let's define it shortly.
All right, shortly, please.
okay. I think that the moment when you kind of, I have a hard time to kind of describe it in English. Let's say,
Now you blaming it on the English. Oh,
that you
Lord.
kind of go over a boundary that kind of neglects the freedom of the opposite, well, gender or whatsoever. So that's toxic masculinity, and that you kind of have.
But
this,
that would also be toxic femininity.
well, may I like finish my sentence,
Sure.
please? Thank you. And then also, I lost my sentence now. But no, I will be back. I'm back. But more in the sense that. Yeah, can someone help me here in the audience?
Okay, so before we move on, let me point something out. You
Wow.
know, that I was willing to undertake this line of discussion, allowing for the possibility that the category of toxic masculinity had some content, right? But if we're going to pursue that line of reasoning and quibble about the answer, then we're certainly going to quibble about the definition that's embedded in the question. And so part of what's happened in our discourse is that we're required ethically to assume a priori, merely out of politeness, that the utterance toxic masculinity actually constitutes a meaningful phrase. And if you push it, you find very rapidly that it doesn't, because it's very, very, very difficult to define, and definitions actually matter. And so if it's a matter of transgressing against the boundaries of gender appropriate behavior, well, first of all, that indicates that there's something universal and normative about gender appropriate behavior, which is something that people who push the idea of toxic masculinity generally tend not to presume. And second, it's just as likely to happen among women as among men, in which case it's not toxic masculinity.
And that's really what this entire exchange.
Yes. Oh my gosh. He's beautiful with his words. I just admire this man very, very much. Like, he's so wise and intelligent, and he's amazing to watch. Like, and just the way that he words things together, it's complicated, and it's and it's big words and all this stuff, but you get the gist of it. You're gonna learn something. Like, and the gist of it is that you don't like the man part of it. It has nothing to do with the toxic part. It has something to do with the man part of it, but you don't realize it within yourself, so you can't define it. You can't define something if you don't know what's bothering you.
I think this is a case of women's God being their feelings.
Oh, gosh.
A woman could, a woman's feelings is like are embedded in something or for something. When she, say if she was in a relationship with a guy, and that guy did something that was misunderstood even in the past, or he made a mistake as far as she was concerned, and it hurt her feelings, and she holds on to that, which is what women do commonly.
Yeah.
Imagine if he decided, well, one day he did something like save a bunch of kids in a burning orphanage,
Right.
and then pulled them out. She would still never forgive him.
He's still a toxic
evil.
man. He still will not ever live down this thing he did to me, though. Like, but
all men don't live down that thing that happened to her. So
Yeah.
all men can't live it down.
And so then what we do, because we are, if you don't know what you are, you don't know how to stop this mess from spreading. And so what happens is you take these phrases that you come up with and pull out of your butt, and you take them to your friends and you say it and you talk about it like you know what you're talking about. Yeah, he's toxic masculine man. And using all these phrases. What's the other one that they really overused for a while? Oh my gosh. Y'all know what the word is. And it's so frustrating. I can't think of it right now. Like, narcissist. Oh my gosh. That all is because of women just blabbing and not knowing what the heck they're talking about. What's the other one that they call Charlie Kirk? And they don't know what the heck. I don't know what it means either, really. But be honest about that. Stop using words you don't know. And stop putting it on people that don't deserve it. That is wrong. That is toxic. That ironically is what is making the world a harder place to live in, because you're using these phrases that you have. That's why he said definition is important. But we don't understand that because we're too busy blabbing amongst women being like, oh, wow, that sounded smart, girl. I like that word. Let me use it too. That's crazy. You don't know what it is. Stop using it. Stop talking amongst each other if you don't really know what you're talking about. For real. That's ironically the toxic part of all of this, is that we get amongst other women and we discuss things and gossip how women do, and we make things worse because you're creating things that aren't necessarily the truth. It's not real. It's based off of feelings, like my husband said. But God bless y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments about a woman coming up to the mic that doesn't have a degree, or not even a degree, excuse me, because they'll use that. But if she says something or asks something and she can't define it, get off the mic. Like, that's what I think. What do you think about that? I'll see you in the next one.